I'm gonna do a roll up of everything that we made since everything is all packaged and ready to go now. Microphone wasn't hooked up for some of this, so it has no audio. So I wanted to run down what the macros are and the ingredients I used for each of these things before I go into it. The first up, are my bagels. Each bagel has 274 calories, 54 grams of carbs, 0 grams of fat, and 10 grams of protein. And I usually make this into a sandwich for my lunches. In order to make a batch of 6, it'll have 330 grams of water, 2 teaspoons of active dry yeast, 21 grams of sugar, and 550 grams of bread flour, and then 10 grams of salt. The first thing I typically do while I'm meal prepping is make my bagel dough because it takes about an hour for this to rise before it's ready to boil and bake. It's important to use bread flour for bagels specifically because the dough is intended to be pretty dense, and that's what gives bagels their chewy texture. Bread flour has a higher protein content than all-purpose flour, which helps creating that denser dough and a more intense gluten structure. So if you're interested in making bakery-style, high-quality bagels, I definitely recommend swapping out all-purpose flour for bread flour. I usually knead this dough for about 8 minutes until it comes into a smooth ball, and then I put that into a glass bowl, cover it with plastic wrap, and then put it into the microwave and it'll rise in there for about an hour. Step 1 is always punching down the dough, and then I go ahead and get that onto my cleaned counter. I use the same bowl and my scale to measure out each of my 6 dough balls to make sure they are roughly the same size. I don't want to have one bagel that's just way bigger than the other. And once I do that, I start shaping them by rolling them on the counter into little balls. They start to look like little buns at this point. But once you have the dough ball, you can go ahead and shape it into a bagel. There's a couple of different ways to do this. One of them is rolling it out into a long tube, I guess, and then rolling it around to create that bagel shape. But I personally prefer this method to create the ball and then poke a hole in the center and stretch it out. I just find that it takes less time and it creates more uniform shapes. Now that they are all shaped, they need to be boiled to give them the chewy texture that is indicative of a traditional bagel. So I just boil them on 90 seconds for one side, flip them over, and then boil them for another 90 seconds on the other side. Once these are done boiling, they go onto my parchment paper lined baking sheet, and then they'll go into the oven for about 18 to 20 minutes at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. After the bagels, I made some granola bars with my sourdough discard. Each of these, the whole batch made 16 individual bars, and each one was 155 calories, 29 grams of carbs, 4 grams of fat, and 3 grams of protein. The whole batch was made with 3 cups of oats, 2/3 of a cup of crispy rice cereal, 2/3 cup of honey, 2/3 cup of sourdough discard, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour and 1/3 of a cup of coconut oil. I've been making sourdough for actually almost a year now, and I've built up quite a reserve of discard, so I've been trying to find recipes for that to go to use. I don't typically meal prep snacks because I'm not a huge snacker myself. I get most of my calories from my big meals, and then I'll have like a pre-workout snack and then maybe some carbs during my workout. But I've been meaning to give this recipe a try for a few weeks now and figured that since I wasn't doing a ton of other cooking, it would be a good opportunity to go ahead and give it a try. If you guys have any recommendations on recipes to make with sourdough discard, please let me know so that I can put my big old tub to discard to good use and not end up having to throw it away. Once I got all of my wet ingredients mixed together, I added that into my dry ingredients and mixed them until they came into this kind of sticky, clumpy texture, and then transferred that over into a pan. I lined the pan with parchment paper so it'd be easy to pull the whole block out once I got it out of the oven. So I cut down just a normal sheet of parchment paper into the size of the pan, scooped that out, and then spent probably more time than it should have taken to try to smooth this out because my paper was moving all over the place. But I finally figured out that I could just smooth it down with another sheet. Next up is the first full meal, which is the spring rolls. Total calories is 684, 86 grams of carbs, 18 grams of fat, and 43 grams of protein. So these have about 6.8 ounces of ground turkey each, with 93% lean, 3 rice wrappers, 70 grams of rice, and then a couple of sauces, about a teaspoon of soy sauce, a teaspoon of oyster sauce, and then a 1/4 cup of the vegetables that we added in. After getting my rice going, step 2 was getting the ground turkey cooked before doing my vegetables. Once my ground turkey was done cooking, I used the same pan to cook up the vegetables that are going in the spring rolls, which was just some shredded carrots and some shredded cabbage. Once my vegetables were ready, I added my ground turkey back into that same pan, added in my sausages, and then stirred it all together. And now it is finally time to assemble. So I added in all of my portions of rice into my containers and then started the process of rolling up the spring rolls. I used these spring roll wrappers that I got from Publix, had one plate with some water to get them pliable plopped them onto my cutting board, added my filling, and then rolled them up and let them dry off just a little bit on an additional plate before putting them into the containers. Each meal had 3 of these individual spring rolls, so I wrapped up a total of 21. Sausage pasta is very simple. So total of 534 calories, 58 grams of carbs, 16 grams of fat, and 39 grams of protein. It was just mild Italian chicken sausage from Publix. This one was the one with kale. 2 of those per meal, 70 grams dry of pasta, and then about a 1/4 cup of the Primal Kitchen vodka sauce per container. Once the pasta and the sausage were done cooking, it was time to package those up. I was going to add on this Primal Kitchen's vodka sauce into those bowls, but I unfortunately could not get the lid off, so we just added on the sauce as we ate those throughout the week. Last meal was the sweet potato and taco beef bowl for Cam's lunches. So it's about 500 calories with 36 grams of carbs, 18 grams of fat, and 44 grams of protein. And that had about 200 grams of sweet potato, 7 ounces of beef, and then a little bit of olive oil just for cooking the beef, and then taco seasoning. I had actually had this ground beef meal prep week, but I had frozen it, so it was good to go for this week. So all I had to do for this meal was prep and cook the potatoes. Hi, Cam. So this week I made 18 full meals, which will be for Cam's lunches and then both of our dinners. I made 6 bagels for my lunches, for my bagel sandwiches, sourdough loaves for breakfast, and then sourdough discard granola bars for snacks. All of these will get us through the entire week through Saturday, and then we will do it all again on Sunday. I usually leave the option for either Friday or Saturday night to eat something non-meal prep, so we don't have anything for those nights, but this is generally what a week of meal prep looks like for me. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope that you got something valuable from this. If you want to know any specific recipes or ingredients, measurements, or anything like that, let me know in the comments and I will give that to you. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, drop a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.